The ability to be controlled by external devices is a key part of any modern AV equipment, and TiMax SoundHub is no exception. In this video, we'll show you how to set up your tracking system, show controller, mixing desk or media server to control functions within the TiMax SoundHub. The most common protocol used to control TiMax is Open Sound Control or OSC. It's important to note that OSC commands must be sent to the PC or the Mac running the TiMax 2 software and not to the TiMax SoundHub unit itself. To get to the OSC control window, first navigate to the View menu and then select Show OSC window here. Let's take a tour of the window. At the top, you can see the IP addresses associated with the local computer, and we can set the OSC receive port. Below, we can see a log of incoming OSC messages. To read incoming OSC, this checkbox needs to be enabled. This section allows us to map OSC messages to TiMax SoundHub controls. This drop-down lists all the controls that can be mapped to OSC messages. The pan space is scaled using absolute coordinates measured in meters or feet. We can use this drop-down to select a translation, allowing us to convert normalized values to absolute values. Finally, once we begin populating it, this section will contain a list of all the OSC messages we have mapped to controls. As an example, we'll set up an OSC panner to control the pan space position of channel 1 on our TiMax SoundHub. We can see incoming OSC from our panner in the incoming OSC list. To map a function, simply select an OSC message from this list. You will see that the OSC address pattern is displayed in this text field. Now, select the command you would like it to trigger from this drop-down. We're going to map this incoming message to the XYZ coordinates of the object on the pan space. The incoming OSC arguments are normalized values between 0 and 1. We're going to need to scale these values to coordinates in meters or feet, and TiMax SoundHub can do this conversion for us. To do this, open this drop-down menu and select Scaled Coordinates in Meters. The window now displays the conversion between minimum and maximum OSC argument values and the corresponding scaled coordinates. To set the absolute XY values that are listed here, we're going to need to navigate back to the pan space. If it isn't visible, the pan space window can be opened from this button on the toolbar in the main window. First, make sure you're viewing the venue layer by selecting it here. Next, we need to click and drag the mouse to select the area of the venue you would like to map to the incoming OSC. I'm going to select the entire area covered by our background image. If we navigate back to the OSC programming window, we will see that the coordinates of the rectangle we just drew are now entered into the TiMax minimum and maximum value fields. Finally, make sure the OSC address is being mapped to the correct TiMax SoundHub channel. We can see here that it's already mapped to channel 1, but we could change that with this drop-down. When we're happy, click Save to add the mapping to the SoundHub file. We can see that our new mapping has been added to this list on the right-hand side. After saving the mapping, we ensure that tracking is enabled. This is done per channel and optionally per queue. Let's navigate back to the pan space window in the usual way. We need to make sure we're back in the spatialization layer by clicking on this button. Next, make sure we're in the correct SoundHub queue. We can do this by selecting the queue from this drop-down menu. Finally, let's switch on tracking for channel 1. We do this by clicking on this T button next to channel 1 in the pan space. As we're still receiving tracking input, we can now see that our object on channel 1 is moving around the pan space. If we want tracking to be enabled and disabled per queue, we can check this button in the left-hand pane. Lastly, TiMax SoundHub queues can be triggered by MIDI messages and MIDI timecode. To set this up, we can head back to the queue list and open the Edit Queue window. Under the Queue Info tab, select this drop-down menu and choose the trigger type you would like to enable. Global MIDI control settings are found within the System Preset function discussed in Video 8, Building a Queue. We've now covered the fundamentals of both internal and external show control in TiMax SoundHub. As we've demonstrated, our software suite contains an extensive feature set. If you have any technical queries or would like to discuss an application, please reach out to us via the TiMax Spatial website, where one of our team will be happy to help.